We saw a big return on last night's AEW Dynamite. New matches have been announced for Title Tuesday, and an AEW star was pulled from TV last night. Stay tuned for the news. Loads going on last night's Dynamite. We're kicking off with a big return, and it's big because he's bloody massive. Wardlow is back on our screens, decimating. I almost just went decimating some jobber. I feel bad saying that. I like Griff Garrison.
Yeah.
What's the deal, Andrew? What happened?
Well, I mean, Wardlow made his long-awaited return to AEW last night, and this was the first appearance that we've seen him on TV since like June 17th.
I can't believe it's been that long.
It's been a very, very long time. He suffered a loss to Luchasaurus in a match for the TNT Championship. The match between Wardlow and Griff Garrison, as you said there,
competitive, back and forth.
It was very swift and very quickly over. Wardlow emerged victorious by referee's decision. It's worth noting that Wardlow, he didn't pin Garrison, he was just aggressive as anything, but instead delivered numerous powerbombs to secure the win. After the match, Wardlow quietly exited through the crowd, disappearing just as quickly as he appeared.
Yep, it just happened, and that's it. So it's great to see Wardlow back. I really like Wardlow, largely doing the same thing like that he's been doing. I like the ref stoppage thing. I think that's good. It makes him look the bollocks. I feel a bit bad for Griff Garrison. We looked at his cage match before because we were talking about like, when's the last time he actually won a match? And this was actually his 2023 AEW debut. He's not been on proper AEW TV all of this year. He's been doing Ring of Honor bits. Hasn't won a match this year.
Not since 2022. Like, in fact, almost a year ago. A whole year ago. I think October 2022 was when he got his last win. Wardlow, fantastic to see him back. Really happy to see him back. I just hope we don't fall into the same trap of just him going out there powerbombing people, getting a title, and then not having any sort of substance to his title reigns or anything like that.
Yeah, I think they've done him a little bit dirty. He's one of the wrestlers that fans have cooled off on, and sometimes it's really not been his fault. Things have just gotten in the way. I think Wardlow's amazing. It's great to see him back on TV, but I hope they brought him back to TV with something in mind. Because this doesn't scream that they've necessarily got anything in mind. Yeah, the ref stoppage thing's cool. Big squash match victory for Wardlow and everything, but I hope we get to a storyline sooner rather than later because people are going to tire of that sort of thing quite quickly.
I think we will. Do you know what? I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I think there was something a little bit extra to Wardlow last night. He felt a little bit more aggressive than usual, and I think that's going to play in somewhere, maybe even a heel turn. I think heel Wardlow is great as well.
Yeah, agreed.
And then finally, sort of maybe eventually down the line, we can have sort of the face turn that we really wanted between him and MJF, and have that blow off to something that never really culminated in anything at that point. So maybe something like that.
If we can get back there, especially now MJF is babyface.
Yeah. Heel Wardlow and a babyface MJF.
Didn't expect to be seeing that, did we?
No, exactly.
People were so into Wardlow, and I think they really dropped the ball. Moving on, new title matches have been announced for AEW Title Tuesday. This is the AEW show where they're going head to head with NXT.
Yeah.
WWE absolutely stacking NXT, obviously. You've got John Cena on the show, you've got Paul Heyman on the show, you've got Asuka on the show.
Yes.
There's lots and lots of main roster superstars heading down to NXT because of the competition, I guess, largely. But they're doing that anyway as well. They are putting main roster people on there. But the new title matches, we already knew that we've got Saraya versus Hikaru Shida on that show. We already knew that we've got Edges, Adam Copeland, I was going to say ages that. Adam Copeland making his AEW in-ring debut, taking on Luchasaurus, but we got some new additions here. We've got Swerve Strickland facing off against Bryan Danielson to determine the number one contender for Christian Cage's TNT title. Also, Rey Fenix is set to defend his international championship in a rematch against Jon Moxley. They're putting the belt back on Moxley there, aren't they?
I think they are, yeah.
silly,
I didn't go
silly
back
mistake.
with their original idea.
Didn't mean to happen, and Phoenix is so beat up. Let's just pretend that didn't happen.
That is what it's going to be, isn't it?
Of course it is.
Yeah, of course.
I sort of expected him to maybe like drop it sooner. I genuinely thought that there was a possibility that might happen, but they're just going to put it back on Moxley. I think we'll see. I don't know. They might surprise us. It depends how beat up he is. But the fact that he couldn't wrestle and like he had to be taken out of the match at Wrestle Dream,
so he could wrestle this match last night.
Pretty knackered, isn't he? Chris Jericho squaring off against Powerhouse Hobbs, and we got Jay White scheduled for a match against Hangman Page.
They're stacking that out as well, aren't they?
Yeah,
you know, which is really good. Obviously, it's a big night for wrestling just in general. I think especially for NXT too. I'm really excited to see that episode of NXT. It sounds bad because the boys on the podcast always put NXT over so much, and there is some really good stuff on there as well. Obviously, we saw No Mercy this weekend.
Brilliant show.
Really Great good show. But next week's episode of NXT just feels really special, doesn't it? With just the star power that they've got heading over there, which is really cool for them.
It'll be interesting to see what the ratings are like for it. We saw a massive spike off the back of Becky Lynch coming and doing NXT stuff. That's been great. Cena, such a big star, it could be it could be their highest rated show in ages. But then again, AEW are stacking it against them. They've got stiff competition there as well. So I'd be interested to see. I think they're going to be two really good shows just based on what has been announced so far. I don't expect like Cena to do much. He'll come out and cut a promo, but it's John Cena.
It's John Cena. It's John Cena.
NJF's opponent for Full Gear has been revealed. This happened last night. What went down here, Andrew?
Oh my God. So during last night's Dynamite, Bullet Club Gold, excluding Switchblade Jay White, so obviously the Guns and Juice Robinson, they entered the ring with the intent of confronting Mr. Maxwell Jacob Friedman. Obviously, they sort of talked about the beatdown that happened last week onto Jay White. You know, we saw the four figures. They were all dressed in black, and one of them had the MJF devil mask on there. They accused MJF of orchestrating the attack, basically, did the Bang Bang Gang. They eventually grabbed the champion's attention, which then prompted him to make his way down to the ramp. Now, as the heated exchange escalated, MJF issued a challenge for a Stockton street fight involving Juice and the Ass Boys. He was prepared to engage in the brawl when suddenly, bloody hell, Jay White came from behind and ambushed the AEW champion. Now, in a surprising turn of events, though, Switchblade snatched MJF's belt and issued a challenge for a title match at AEW Full Gear 2023. MJF accepted the challenge, and it appears that this showdown between the two is now confirmed for the event on Saturday, November 18th, 2023.
Love this.
I love this as well.
Really into it. Really into it. If MJF retains here, he's very likely to end up being, I think, the first AEW World Champion to surpass a year. That's flown by.
Bloody hell, that has flown by, hasn't it?
Apparently, I think that's the deal here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen here. I think it'll be an amazing match. I love Jay White. I love everything he does. I think he's absolutely amazing. I don't expect him to win here or anything.
No.
But I think it's going to be a hell of a match. And MJF is just like, I wasn't sold on the babyface thing initially, in part because I was like, right, the guy's a heel. He's going to be a career heel. But when I was watching Wrestle Dream and the guy crowd palm of his hand, like he came out and he was like, oh, I'm going to scoop slam you. He said he got the biggest reaction to a scoop slam since WrestleMania 3. It was
it's mad.
And it shows his power, how much the fans are connecting with him. I'm loving everything that's happening there right now, and I think that match will be absolutely fantastic. We finish off with an AEW star being pulled from Dynamite. Don Callis making the announcement last night that Sammy Guevara had been deemed unfit for competition by AEW's medical team. So a new partner was announced for Takeshita. With Takeshita. Which was Kyle Fletcher, one half of Aussie Open, of course. Mark Davis right now is out. He's knackered. He broke his wrist, didn't he? He went to Twitter afterwards and was like, I've snapped my wrist.
Yes.
Sometimes you win and
sometimes you snap
your wrist.
What a guy.
So get well soon to him.
Absolutely.
That's reported to be like 2 to 3 months out. So hopefully, depending on the severity of the injury, but he shouldn't be off screen for too long. They faced off, of course, against Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega. What do you think overall overall, Dynamite last night?
I thought it was mint. I thought it was really good. And obviously coming out of Wrestle Dream, there's still things that need to be tied up and stuff. And obviously with all the stuff with MJF, as we talked about earlier, needs to be tied up. I'm excited about them obviously having stuff for Kyle Fletcher to do as well, which is really, encouraging. Really good. Which makes sense as well, obviously, because Will Ospreay is part of the Don Callis family too, so maybe getting Aussie Open in there eventually would be a nice thing to see. Obviously, we see there that Kyle Fletcher's in there now at the moment, obviously, as Mark Davis is out injured, but. I think, do you know what? Kyle Fletcher stepped up because I remember Mark Davis also getting injured earlier on in the year as well, I believe. And he really stepped it up and had some tremendous matches on his own. And to put him in something like this as well, I think it's a nice little thing to do. It's
good that they've not just gone, okay, right, well, your tag partners, gone for a bit, so we're not going to use you. I'm sort of very optimistic about the next few months. You know what? It's been just such a good week of wrestling, hasn't it?
It really has.
We're both doing the podcast this afternoon. 7 shows we're covering in this week in wrestling. There's a lot going on. Right, so we got Wrestle Dream No Mercy.
Yep.
SmackDown Collision.
Raw.
Dynamite, NXT. 7 in total. I've enjoyed every single one of those.
Me too. They've been thoroughly enjoyable with some really tremendous matches on there as well.
I think the thing that's been really highlighted in the last week, specifically with the pay-per-views, is variety. There's been a huge amount of variety, specifically with those 2 pay-per-views. Both NXT and AEW provided absolutely fantastic a range of wrestling. There was something for everyone this weekend, and I think the weekly TV's been really good. We'll chat about it more on the podcast anyway. Take care of yourselves. We'll be back with more news very shortly. You've got predictions coming up tonight, and then the usual pay-per-view content. You know how it works by now. Take care of yourselves. See you in a bit.